Today, we're diving into a brand new open-source tool from ARM called Metis, and honestly, it's designed to completely change how we think about code security. It's less about being a machine and more about acting like an expert human reviewer. So, let's pull back the curtain and see exactly how this thing works. I want to kick things off with this question because it really gets to the core of the problem we're tackling. You can write code that's perfectly structured, right? It follows all the syntax rules, it compiles with zero errors, but it can still have a massive security hole because the logic is flawed. And that is a really dangerous blind spot, one that trips up even the best developers. All right, so to really get why a tool like Metis is such a big deal, we first need to look at what we're already using. We've got to understand the security gap that even our best traditional tools can leave wide open. For years, the foundation of automated security has been SAST, that's Static Application Security Testing. And look, these tools are fantastic. They're super fast, they can scale across enormous code bases, and they are great at spotting common, known mistakes by just matching patterns against a big rulebook.
Now this is the best way to think about it. Imagine a SAST tool is like the spell checker in your word processor. It's awesome at catching typos and basic grammar mistakes, the obvious stuff. But a spell checker has no idea if your story makes sense. It can't tell you if there's a giant plot hole. For that, you need an editor, someone who actually understands the intent, the context, the bigger picture. And that is the exact gap Metis is built to fill.
So if our traditional tools are the spell checker, what's the editor? Well, this is where Metis comes in. It's not trying to replace those tools, but to add a whole new layer of intelligence right on top.
It's named after the Greek goddess of wisdom and deep thought, which is pretty fitting, right? Because Metis is designed to do something totally different. It's not just scanning for patterns, it's trying to understand your code. It adds that layer of reasoning and context that, until now, you could really only get from a very experienced human engineer looking over your shoulder.
Okay, so how in the world does it actually do this? In this next part, we're going to look under the hood at the architecture that lets Metis figure out the why behind your code, not just the what.
So the secret sauce here is an architecture called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG. Here's how it works in simple terms. First, it doesn't just look at a single file. It builds a whole knowledge base for your project by reading all the source code, the documentation, even the build files. Then, it uses really clever, specialized prompts to guide its analysis. And the result? It spits out insights that are deeply aware of what your project is actually trying to do.
And this table just lays it all out, crystal clear. You see, traditional SAST is just syntax-based, which is why it can generate so many false positives, so much noise. Metis, on the other hand, understands semantics and architecture. But check out that last row. That's the real game changer. Instead of some cryptic rule ID, Metis gives you a plain English explanation of not just what's wrong, but why it's a problem in the context of your code.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see this thing in action. We're going to look at a real piece of code now with a really subtle but critical bug that shows you exactly what makes Metis so powerful.
All right, take a look at this loop. The whole point of it is to remap memory addresses. Syntactically, it's perfect. Any traditional SAST tool would look at this and say, yep, looks good to me. But there is a huge logic flaw hiding right here in plain sight. Can you see it? And boom, here's what Metis found. It understood the intent that the loop was supposed to remap addresses. And it realized that while the new address was calculated perfectly, it was never actually written back into memory. The remapping just doesn't happen. The new value is calculated and then just vanishes into thin air.
And here's the fix. It's just one line. Asterisk PTR equals value. It's such a tiny change. But without it, the entire function was basically useless and could have led to some really serious security problems. This is exactly the kind of contextual, logic-based bug that Metis is built to find.
So that one example is pretty mind-blowing. But what happens when you set this thing loose on big, complicated, real-world projects? Well, let's look at the results from ARM's own internal trials, because they're pretty remarkable.
The headline number is this one, a 95% true positive rate. That is huge. It means that when Metis flags something, it's almost definitely a real problem that a developer needs to look at. It's not just noise that everyone learns to ignore.
And it gets better. During their trials, Metis found brand new vulnerabilities in firmware that was about to be released. It dug up issues that had been lurking in codebases for years, missed by every other tool. And get this, it even identified known, real-world vulnerabilities that it had never been trained on, which just goes to show how powerful its reasoning is.
Okay, so this brings us to the future of Metis. Because ARM didn't just build this tool for themselves, they've made it an open source project, and they're inviting the entire developer community to come use it, improve it, and shape where it goes next.
You can go to GitHub and start using Metis right now. It's out there under the Apache 2.0 license, which is super permissive. The first release already supports C, C++, Python, Rust, and TypeScript, and it's built with a plugin system that should make adding new languages pretty straightforward.
And if you're interested in getting involved, there are a ton of ways to contribute. You could help add support for your favorite programming language, you could design and test new prompts for analysis, or you could even try plugging in different large language models to see how they perform.
You know, what we're seeing here feels like the start of a new chapter. One where AI isn't just checking our work for typos, but is actually a partner that helps us reason about our own code. Metis is a huge step in that direction, bridging that gap between a simple automated scan and true expert intuition. The tool is out there for all of us now. The only question left is, what are we going to build with it? Thanks for watching.